By default, the container class in Skeleton is based on a CSS max width property of 960 pixels. We can override this property with our own value to control the width of the container class. So let's restructure our columns real quickly to demonstrate this. So let's go ahead. I'm going to gut everything here. I'm going to put in 2 columns. And I will use the shorthand Shift Alt and down to replicate this line. And we'll make this one 10 columns. Now let's go ahead to our skeleton.css file. We'll go back up here just to the top at the grid, and we'll note the line that mentions its max width of 960 pixels in the container class rule set. What if we wanted to make this larger? Well, let's go ahead and override it in our main.css file. We reference container, max-width, and we'll make it 1200 pixels. Now, before we save it, I want to show you the current result versus the result after saving main.css. And we could see where it is currently at based on a 960 pixel container. Just reference where this end line right here is in relation to this little bookmark icon. So we'll go back, we'll save, and now we can see it did definitely extend. We can even go back and change this to something that's much more small. And we'll see that it works and the grid will behave normally. So let's go back and let's remove this override. We're going to stick with the typical 960 container width. Now, another common practice is adjusting the column width based on the viewport width. Being that Skeleton is such a simple, lightweight boilerplate, there are no classes for controlling this behavior, but we can still create our own classes as needed. So going back to our index.html, let's say for instance that for whatever reason, we want our 2 columns to stack sooner. So let's go ahead and copy this row class right here. We'll paste it. And then let's add a custom CSS class on the top row columns. So after our columns class, we'll add smaller hyphen than tablet stacked. We'll copy this and paste it on this one as well. Now, referring back to our skeleton CSS, if we go all the way to the bottom, we'll see that we have a media queries section. So notice where it says 550 pixels right here. Well, that's where the grid becomes active or the columns stacked. Now, if we want them to stack sooner, we could copy the larger than tablet media query right here and go back to our main CSS. We'll paste this in, but we don't want them to stack on tablet sizes and larger, but rather the reverse. So we can change this comment from larger than to smaller, and then in the media query, we're going to change min width to max width. Inside of here is where we can reference our custom CSS class that we created earlier, smaller than tablet stacked. And we'll change the width to 100%, important to override, and margin left 0 to get rid of any gutters. So let's save this and check out the browser. So at the top we can see our first 2 columns with our custom class added, as well as the bottom right here with them removed. So if we drag this in, we'll see that the top stacks sooner than the bottom. Notice the bottom are not stacked anymore. So if we go all the way, we'll see that the behavior is consistent across all of them. This is how you can control responsive adjustments in a custom manner within Skeleton CSS. So now you have a solid conceptual understanding of the grid in Skeleton. Let's gain practice with it by defining a layout for a fictional project.